Hello, Dr. Caleb Frank here with the Sarah Life Center. This is a time of year when we really focus on parenthood. We have Father's Day coming up this weekend, and last month we celebrated Mother's Day. Both of these days are days that we honor our parents and think about the ways that they have impacted our lives and enhanced our lives, not only giving us life, but also continuing to support us and to care for us as we grow and develop into adults. But you probably didn't know that there was another type of Mother's Day also in May. So this actually was the week before Mother's Day. It's a day that's known as Bereaved Mother's Day. So this is a day to honor mothers or women who have lost children, whether through pregnancy loss like miscarriage or stillbirth, or after they've been born due to sudden infant death syndrome, also known as SIDS, or from some other form of infant loss. Essentially, this is a day for those that have mother's hearts but empty arms. Now, I like to include infertility in this because there are a lot of women out there who have a mother's heart, who yearn and desire to be a mother, to have children of their own, but struggle with the ability to get pregnant and therefore are unable to fulfill that dream. So this is a day that I didn't really know about until we went through several of our own pregnancy losses. I shared more about our story in the previous video, so if you didn't watch that, I encourage you to go and look at that. It was a very difficult video to film and to edit, but I think it's important to highlight my desire and my passion to help those that are struggling with infertility and pregnancy loss. So this is a lot more common issue than people realize. When we look at infertility alone, 1 out of 6 couples worldwide suffer from infertility. That's about 17% of all couples. And in this case, infertility is defined as the inability to conceive after 1 year of unprotected intercourse. So this is further highlighted by the amount of women that have pursued treatment or care for infertility. It's estimated that 7.4 million women, or 11.9% of all women, have had treatment for infertility. Fertility treatments can be very costly. Some women spend up to $60,000 or even more on the fertility treatments that they receive. So when we look at miscarriage, a miscarriage is going to be defined as a loss that occurs prior to 20 weeks, and typically this occurs during the first trimester. When you look at the overall risk of miscarriage, 15.3% of all pregnancies end in miscarriage. And it's estimated that there's about 23 million miscarriages worldwide every year. When we look at a stillbirth is going to be a loss that occurs after 20 weeks. Typically, you still go through the labor and delivery process. You deliver the child, but they're already deceased when that happens. So this was the experience that my wife and I went through in July of 2022 with our son Titus. And again, you can look back at my previous video if you want to hear more about that. So it's estimated that in the U.S. alone, about 21,000 babies are stillborn each year. My first experience with this type of pregnancy loss was when my sister went through a difficult stillbirth experience over a decade ago now. We had many discussions over the years regarding her pain and her grief and her sorrow, and especially after my wife and I went through our own stillbirth a couple years ago, we really discussed a lot about how that loss becomes a permanent part of you. It's not something that you ever outgrow or overcome. It is something that becomes a part of you and you learn to live with and accept. As you can imagine, it's difficult for someone to open up and share about the loss and the pain that they felt through a pregnancy loss like this. On Bereaved Mother's Day, I saw several posts on Facebook. One of them was from an old college friend of mine who, for the first time in 8 years since her pregnancy loss, was able to find the strength and the peace and the courage to share her story publicly. I also have several family members who have experienced pregnancy loss, especially miscarriage. My cousin and his wife also have had 8 miscarriages. They've continued to struggle with a lot of the physical, mental, and emotional, and even spiritual issues that accompany those kind of losses. But even through their pain and their struggle, they've been able to find ways to honor the children that they've lost and also to support others. His wife especially does some embroidery projects that are specific to people who have lost children and gone through these type of experiences. My wife and I actually just received one that we had commissioned her to make recently, and it is very beautiful. So there are still ways to use your pain and your suffering to help others. So I spoke in the last video about Agape Care Cradle, which is a ministry that really helped my wife and I through our stillbirth experience. And one of my cousins, his wife, got really heavily involved in the organization or the ministry after their own miscarriage issues. And then I became real good friends with a lot of the people involved in that ministry over the last couple of years since we went through our stillbirth experience. One of them in particular has just experienced her fifth loss this last year. And even though the pain was still recent, even though she's still recovering and trying to find out what her new normal is, she was able to, instead of hiding away on Bereaved Mother's Day, she chose to get involved with some other people that have gone through that, and to be able to be part of a community of those who have experienced this loss and this suffering. And she was able to find a lot of meaning and healing through that process. So as you can see, this is something that is really a lot more common than we think. And if you struggle through a pregnancy loss, I really want to encourage you to find a community group, find a ministry, find a support group that can help you through processing your emotions. Again, we never actually get rid of the loss, get rid of the sorrow, get rid of the sadness, but we can learn to live with it and accept it and to be able to move on with our life. So just because we have this type of loss doesn't mean that's where our life stops or ends. We are able to continue to moving forward, to continue living life, and trusting that there is something better for us. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about some of the common causes that lead to infertility and pregnancy loss issues. So be sure to check that out. And until then, take care and be blessed.